Aaron here from the RadBoyz, and it's a sad day today at the RadBoy headquarters because the bike's going, oh my god. My little friend, the Mini Goose, is going home, unfortunately. So my cousin has decided to give this to her son, Easton, for Easter instead of his birthday. So I thought I had a few months to take it all in, but it's leaving today. So I got to do my final walk around video here and just go over some of the details of the bike before it goes. Yesterday I took it outside in the sun, got a bunch of good pictures so that I can index it on the BMX museum. I'm probably going to actually snap a few more inside here in the controlled lighting environment, just to get some more pics, make sure I got loads of good ones, because this will not be remaining in the stable. So I got to make sure I got lots of pics to, log the build and keep the memories of this bike and make sure I can submit it to the museum for proper indexing. So anyways, let's do a walk around of this thing. This is the finished bike and it turned out amazing. I love it. I almost don't want to get rid of it, but it's going to a good home. And it's going to a 6-year-old who is going to appreciate it, and it's probably going to create a lifelong memory for him of his childhood BMX. And that's what it's all about. So, happy to do this for him. So anyways, yeah. I mean, started out pretty rough, this thing. Blue and silver, super cycle, beat up, mix and match of parts. Barely anything original. It did have the frame and forks, the crank was there, and the seat post, and that's about it. So what I added to this bike is the pedals were totally refurbished back to new condition, and I put those on. I put a new chain. I put the mag set, brand new tough wheels, 16-inch tough wheels with the steel bearing hubs, freewheel rear rim. The skin wall, the Kenda skin wall, I think they're Kenda, yeah, Kenda skin wall tires obviously were brand new. So wait, I should start with new parts. Okay, so what I bought new for this bike was not a lot. I bought the mags and tires, the brake pads, brake lines, and grips. Also the levers, and I think that's it. So again, all that was bought new was the tires, mags, brake pads, brake lines, grips, and levers. I also bought the decal set, and that's about it for stuff that was bought new for this build. So for used parts that were reconditioned or refurbed, whatever you want to call it. Okay, what did I put on this bike that I rebuilt? So the calipers, starting with those were obviously redone completely. The stem was stripped down, modified, painted, and polished. The gyro parts, same thing. Everything there was cleaned up and painted. The frame and forks and bars were all sandblasted and painted. The levers, which were bought new, I painted to match everything else. Chains new, and also the pegs are new. So I forgot to add that into the new stuff. So the new stuff is the tires, the rims, the brake pads, the brake lines, the grips, the levers, the pegs, and the decals, and the chain. That's all brand new stuff. Used stuff that I rebuilt is the pedals, the stem, the seat post clamp, the calipers, the frame, forks, and bars were all painted and or sandblasted and refinished, and all the crank parts were soaked, polished, repainted, whatever they needed to come back to new condition. The seat was a seat I had here in my collection. I sanded some of the marks out of it and repainted on the logo, the Freestyle logo. It turned out pretty good. The seat itself is a little rough, but it's a seat. He's going to beat it up, so I'm not too worried about it. The pads were custom. I made those. The stand and a rad skin for the bike, all made in-house by Diverse Technologies. What else? So custom stuff is the number plate, the pad set, the dice caps, the rad skin here, and the rad stand, which is all going with the bike. You know, this thing turned out beautiful. You know, it's even hard to tell in close-up pictures what size of a bike this is, because it's done just as if it was a full-size BMX. So at one point I took a picture of the headset close-up, like right here, and posted that, and no one could tell what size bike that was. I mean, yeah, it was a close-up pic, but the fact that it has all the components of a big bike throws people off. This is a 16-inch BMX. A 6-year-old is going to ride this. Anyways, it really turned out great. I'm going to just do a little walk around and do some close-up shots of everything. And then I'll talk a bit more. So I pretty much kid-proofed this bike too, because, you know, I built it in a way where I knew that, you know, the components that went into it are parts that are going to last. Everything's been greased like crazy. You know, an example is I made sure to put a hard plastic seat on it, like the old school stuff, and not a padded one like some of the new, well, most of the new bikes have. Reason being is a 6-year-old will shred that seat to bits. There'll be foam hanging out. It'll take on water and he'll have a wet ass every time he gets off the bike. Whereas this hard plastic seat, yeah, it might take a couple scuffs on the corners here and there over the years, but it's going to remain looking half decent, dry, and, you know, in my opinion, in the long run, these seats hold up much better. So another thing I did is, I don't know if you can see inside that hole right there in the end of the grip, but there's a nickel in there, and that nickel is just so, you know, kids drop their bikes all the time, and it punches the bars through the end of the grip there. So that nickel is to stop that from happening, because instead of the bar edge punching through the grip, it just hits onto the nickel, which acts as like a stop plate, spreads out the blow on the end of the grip and stops it from ripping through. And, you know, even pegs. So these are not pegs meant for grinding, but these pegs he can stand on and he can start playing around, you know, trying to do some freestyle stuff. And I mean, he's 6, so he's going to be riding this mostly in his driveway and in the neighborhood. Once in a while his parents will probably take him to the park. So there may be the odd time where he feels restricted because he doesn't have pegs that are proper for grinding. But I mean, a 6-year-old, that's probably not going to be a big deal to him. Plus, he's going to be able to learn stuff on this bike that you can't learn on the new school stuff. And I mean, playing in his driveway, he'll be able to progress on this more than he would on a new school bike playing in his driveway, in my opinion. There's a lot more technical tricks you can do on an old school freestyle bike, you know, flat ground, than on a new school BMX. So this thing definitely gives him, you know, a lot of room to grow and to learn. So I'm gonna actually try to do this a little bit smoother this time by busting out my build list. Because if I bust out the build list for this bike, then I can just read over it. So here it is right here. Now this will show in detail. This way I can go over in detail what exactly was done. So the frame. So the frame, forks, and bars. So the bars I had here in the garage in my collection of bars. I actually had those just laying around, intending on using them on one of my son's bikes at some point. But they were perfect for this build, so I threw them in and painted those when I painted the bars, or sorry, the frame and forks. So the frame and the forks were OEM pieces, and the bars, like I said, I found those. They were a good match for the build, so they were painted to match everything else when I did the frame and forks, and the end result is this frame set. So the Skyway Tufts and Kenda skin wall tires were bought. Those came from planetbmx.com. The crank, that's the OEM crank. I just cleaned it up, painted the chain guard, and re-greased and reassembled. It was in good condition, and it's a little mini 3-piece, so, and it was original to the bike, so I figured it was good enough. The chain is a brand new KMC. Pedals are, oh, what were they? They were like, why, no, what the hell were they? VPs, oh yeah, they were VPs. So those were fully refurbished by me in-house, painted, stripped down, re-greased, painted, reassembled, and that's what they look like now. The bottom bracket is all original parts that were re-greased and put back together. The headset is all original parts that were re-greased and put back together. The freewheel was a Shimano freewheel that I had here that was in severe need of restoration, so I cleaned it up, re-greased it, and put that on the bike. Seat post was original. It was just cleaned up and mounted. The seat post clamp is a tough neck style that I had here and donated to the project, and then painted it when I painted all the other red bits. The stem was stripped down, modified, so I drilled it for the Potts mod bolt, modified that, polished the base, painted the clamp, and put it all back together, and it's good to go. Grips are AME tri-grips in the Mini for kids bikes, and those came from porkchopbmx.com. Levers are Diacomp MX, what are these? I don't know. Diacomp anyways. I painted those. Those were chrome when I got them, and I painted them red to match everything else. And again, those are from Pork Chop. Calipers are Lee Chi Freestyle calipers. So I had these in my collection. They were in a bin here. They were in severe need of restoration, so again, they were stripped down, refinished, and reassembled, and this is how they turned out. They look pretty good. The gyro pieces, again, that was old stock, not new old stock, just an original gyro that was in really bad condition. I mean, I picked the worst one out of my collection because I knew I had to refinish it. And again, everything was stripped, painted, bearings were re-greased, and everything was put back together. Brake pads are brand new Diacomp in white so that they don't put brake rub on the rims, and those are from Pork Chop. What else? Oh yeah, the gyro lines came from eBay. I'm not even sure what the name of the seller was, but it was a good deal, and it came with both the upper and lower gyro lines as well as a matching red front brake line, which was perfect because that's everything I needed for the build. The pegs were an eBay piece out of China that actually Rob got and just had in his stock, and he donated them to the build. They actually work out perfect because I didn't want to have to use a set of my old school finger pegs, but I wanted to put pegs on this bike for Easton, so these ones fit the build perfectly. What else? So the pad set. This is a custom pad set made in-house by me. Red on red, Mongoose. The graphics are reproduction, fully licensed set of Mongoose Expert Moore Park decal set, and those came from Pork Chop. They are actually licensed reproductions made by BMX Products. What else do we got here? Valve caps, custom in-house by Diverse Technologies. The stand, again built here in-house, Rad stand by Diverse Technologies. And finally, the Rad skin here in red, which is I threw this in on the deal too because you know, I had the material cut and I knew it would fit the bike, so I figured I got to throw that in on it. So yeah, that basically covers everything. Every nut and bolt has been gone over on this bike. Nothing has been untouched. It's been fully rebuilt from the ground up. Everything's got new finish or is brand new. Everything's got new lube, fresh grease. I don't know. This is a brand new bike. This is better than new. Look at the functioning of the brakes. Seems to work just great. There's no drag whatsoever. Nice. That's what I like. He is gonna love this bike. I don't know if I even mentioned the number plate in that on that list, but yeah, and the number plate also is built by myself here in-house, Diverse Technologies. And so I made the decals, formed the ears, and it turned out great. But anyways, that is the finished product. This bike is beautiful. I'm sad to see it go, but I'm super happy Easton's getting such an amazing bike. Cannot wait. I'm gonna get his parents to tape the reveal when they give this bike to him. I'm assuming it's gonna be, I don't know if it'll be Sunday or Monday, but one of these days anyways. I also put chain tensioners on it, make sure this chain stays good and tight, which it's good now. So yeah, I don't know what else I could say about this thing other than it's awesome, and I wish I was keeping it. My son Ryder even came in here and saw it when it was done and said, "Dad, you have got to build me a bike like that, Dad." So now I feel really guilty. I guess I gotta build my boys one just as killer now, which I would have. It's just I didn't think he was ready for one yet. This killer. He's already got a few 12 inches that I built for him. Mini hutch, but he's ready for the 16, so I guess it's time. Anyways, it's gonna be sad to see this thing go, but it's a beauty bike, and like I said, Easton's gonna love this thing. Oh yeah, another thing, seat guts upside down as usual. It's got all the characteristics of a typical Rad Boy build. This thing rocks pretty much the same way every Rad Boy build does. Oh shit, yeah. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, tune in regularly. We got more builds coming. We got the GT Interceptor, and then I'm gonna be getting into some motorcycles like crazy. So make sure you tune in regularly. RadBoyz, hold on to your hats.